It is the On to Something podcast, and our guest today is Bob Moore. He is Sports USA Media President, which is a sports play-by-play programming syndication that you can hear all across the country. They do NFL, NHL, other programming as well. Lots of content they are pushing out there. Now, I said during the interview, at times, Sports Media USA. Let me get out in front of this. It is Sports USA Media. So now that we got that under control, Bob has been in the biz for 50 years. He's worked with a lot of professional sports franchises in negotiating rights deals and programming in LA and also in New York. All of this to say he has a lot of great stories from working with Al Davis, from other sports franchises. He is going to really indulge you with some neat stories. You're going to come out of this smarter. You're going to come out of this more savvy when it comes to understanding the landscape of sports media and the radio business. You are going to enjoy this conversation. Without further ado, let's get to it. It's Bob Moore. Now, Bob, I want to start here. I saw this quote of you on LinkedIn, and somebody said this when talking about you. They said, quote, if you're going to run a media company as Bob has, you've got to know how to inspire creative people, close quote. So what is it about you that has been able to tap into people to make sure you get that original creative side out of them to the extreme in which you've been able to do?
Thank you. And by the way, let's lose the 5 decades. That makes me realize how old I really am. I think I started when I was 4 then. But anyway, no, I mean, I've always believed ever since I got in this business, I've always believed that the talent is the single most important part of this business. And to work with the talent, enhance the talent, make the talent feel comfortable, and acknowledge their importance to the product, and then help them however I possibly could. Encourage them, work with them, surround myself with the best programming people. And I've always felt the greatest role of a manager is to have the best people he can have around him. And if you all are on the same wavelength of developing the best talent, enhancing that, supporting them, which is a big factor in it, supporting the talent, 99.9% of the time, I think you'll win, finding the best talent.
When you think about your love of this business, what is it about sports radio that got you, that activated your impassioned desire to play such a big role in its growth and its transcendence, and how it has become such an important part and fabric of our society, where you couldn't find yourself, Bob, doing anything else but what you're doing right now?
Well, here's the interesting thing, and I realized this morning. I've never run a sports station. How crazy is that? Everything I've done in the sports world has been a music station or a talk station. I've never run a sports station, but I realized my passion was, I was a kid growing up in Wisconsin when the Packers were the Packers. They were dominant. So I was a Packers fan early on. I was a football fan. I sat around at Thanksgiving with the family in the living room and my mother in the kitchen saying, please come. I've been cooking all day. Please come in, because the games are on. We wouldn't leave the living room. We probably ended up eating on a TV tray, because we wouldn't leave the games. So I've always had a passion for sports. I played football in junior high school. I was never good enough to play in college, but that's where I saw that pyramid happen, where you take the kids from the small town, and then all of a sudden you open up every kid from every small town that goes to college, and it's that elite. And then from there, it keeps going up. So I've always been very passionate about sports. What I realized with radio was there is an insatiable desire for fans to hear live sports on the radio, no matter what the format, which is why I said, I've never run a sports station. I've run music stations, But on Sunday afternoon or Saturday afternoon, if you're giving them live play-by-play, that's something that transcended, podcasting. It transcended Walkmans. It transcended almost everything else, because it's very few people, a few crazed baseball fans will actually record a show and then, a live game and then play it later. But the masses listen live. And that's what I realized with sports. It was a way to super serve our audience with something that they were very passionate about and that we could give them. And more importantly, for me as a businessman, advertisers loved it. Absolutely loved the ability to brand themselves with a sports broadcast.
We're talking with Bob Moore, president at Sports Media USA. I'm Bryan Fenley with Fox Sports Radio. When you are listening to that live programming, Bob, and you understand the power it has over people and how they are enthralled by it, and you mentioned the live element and how captivating it is and how attention grabbing it is, what is it that when you listen is most attention grabbing to you when you listen to that content and how it's programmed and how a show and how a broadcast is scripted, that really is what you take away from it, that tells you, okay, this is what I'm looking for. This is the kind of stuff that I approve of, or that I think is going to be very successful for public consumption?
Yeah, well, there's two things. One is your job. Very important. You can have a good announcer do a great game, but it doesn't transcend. But if you've got a great announcer doing a good game, even a bad game, I've listened to games that are 37-7. But if you've got a great announcing team, that game is still interesting because they're filling your head with information and facts about both teams that maybe you wouldn't know, as well as the action on the field. I mean, I think that's the thing that excites people. But a great broadcast team can change any game in my mind.
What is the difference between a great broadcast team in today's day compared to one in the 80s or the 90s?
Well, I mean, passion and knowledge. To me, that's the whole basis of this, of the game. It's passion and knowledge. I mean, do you have to have the greatest voice? I don't think that really matters, in the scheme of things. I mean, also LA is, been spoiled by the Chick Hearn and, the people like that. It's just, the legends that came out of this town, Bob Miller and, of course, now I can't think of the Dodgers.
Vince Scully.
Vin. How could I possibly forget Vin Scully? But, those are legends. But I think a lot of broadcasters today grew up listening to them and realized that passion, that information, filling people in between the play and having a color person or something like that to really give you kind of a background of more of what's going on in the field, so you can actually understand the game a little bit better. I think that's why when Troy, was it Aikman? No, it was who's the second quarterback for Dallas that became an analyst?
Oh, Tony
Romo. When Romo went in the booth, and all of a sudden Romo's going, oh no, that's a split right 95. He's going to go, and the networks and everybody had to say, whoa, you can't give away all the plays. You can say, yes, it's going to go to the tight end. But I mean, he saw those formations. And as a quarterback, he knew exactly what that play was. That's something that I think to the audience, you're like, wow, they can, and you get a better feel of what goes on the field. When they see that formation, they know what it is, which also separates the great from the incredible. If you're playing a defense that knows 90% of the plays you're going to run because they know those formations and you can still complete them, how exciting is that?
Your listeners don't understand 90% of the plays that you run, Bob, as far as your day-to-day operation and what you do and how you're growing at Sports USA. So what is it like being Bob Moore for a day?
Well, I mean, it's extremely exciting. I mean, I work with, I think, some of the best people in the entire business. I mean, the founder of the company, Larry Kahn, started this company over 20 years ago. And he was a broadcaster, he was a sports guy, and he realized there was an opportunity. We're doing our 20th year, I mean, of NFL games, which is incredible, the greatest sport in the world. So it's very exciting because we're constantly exploring opportunities. Like you mentioned, we picked up the NHL last year. So we're now the national radio partner of the NHL. We've explored, Premier League. We've looked at other opportunities because we're a live play-by-play company. We got into with Joe Morgan, we did a radio show. Joe Namath, we did a radio show. Jake Plummer, we did a radio show. That's a very cluttered environment. And then you get into how many stations you can clear, and then what the broadcast sales, your sales association can sell. But live play-by-play sport, there's an incredible, thirst for that, a real desire by the audience. And I think we saw that last year when a lot of sports were put on hold. And then when they started to come back, how the audience immediately came back to it, stronger than ever. So that's the excitement. We're always exploring opportunities. Like I said, Premier League, we were very deep in negotiations with Premier League. We're always looking at incredible sports that have a long tail and have a big following. Those are the two things we look at,
Sports USA has a big following, and you were pointing out earlier some of the legends when it comes to talent and broadcasters that you look up to that are stars in this game. Now I want to shift the attention back on you and what makes you a legend, because you are, and I want to hear where you think you feel you stand in the pantheon of sports radio programming / rights dealing executives, and how big of a role that you've played in the grand scheme of sports radio. And look, I don't want you to be humble here, because look, you've done a lot. So where do you think that you stack up with all that's going on in your industry?
Well, I would never say I'm at the top. As I said, I've never run a sports station. That's bizarre that I've had, the Raiders, the Giants, the Dodgers, the Angels, the Kings, the Ducks. I mean, you name it. I've had, I've had so many different associations in so many different sports. When it comes to what I think I'm good at, I think I'm a good negotiator, and I think that I can present a product to people and a passion for what I can do with that relationship with these radio stations that people like and buy into, because it's never just a straight business transaction. If it's ever just a straight business transaction, then it's always going to come down to dollars and cents. And I think the passion part is the biggest part. If I contribute anything to that program, to me, that's what made the difference. I think I was very good at explaining to people how passionate I was and my whole entire staff was about getting that association, and then marketing it to the best of our ability, and then managing it to the best of our ability, and then thirdly, selling it to the best of our ability. Because a lot of the deals have changed from the 80s, which were they weren't rev shares then, and a lot of them have gone to rev shares now. So the teams recognize there's money to be made off of more than there's, and plus there's multiple distribution channels today. So you've got to work through all of that.
Bob Moore is with us, hanging out with us. He is president at Sports Media USA. I'm Bryan Fenley, with Fox Sports Radio. So you talk about all these deals that you've been a part of in brokering. And I know there have been so many different teams that you have worked with. Your stint in New York, you've worked with teams professionally out there, and then a number of different professional franchises in Los Angeles. But if you were to take pride in, and I know you take pride in all of these deals, but one in which you're most proud of, in you being able to negotiate, in you being able to play a strong role in seeing a deal come to fruition, what would that be for you?
Well, Dodgers would be right up at the top. I mean, there's several. Dodgers would be at the top. A meeting with Al Davis, that'll go down, and that will go down in my. That was probably the most memorable moment I've ever had in direct negotiations, was a meeting with Al Davis. Meeting with the owners of the Giants, one-on-one. That was, Wellington Mara and Preston Bob Tisch. Those are meetings you'll never, ever, ever get, and as I said, the Dodgers, that was a big, big deal. It was a big deal for our radio station. It was a huge deal, for them also. There's been so many. I mean, it's amazing. USC, I could go on for hours, with doing, because it's so incredibly refreshing, and it's so exciting when you get those opportunities, to sit and negotiate. And again, probably my best memories, if I summed it all up, working with the Raiders when they were the LA Raiders. I mean, that was, going to training camp, going and meeting the players and working with Howie Long and working with a bunch of these guys, by doing outside things. And, it was unbelievable. I've had a extremely blessed career to have the associations with a lot of these. I did a commercial for my radio station with Kurt Rambis and Lyle Alzado. And I mean, it was probably one of the most memorable days of my life, because Kurt Rambis said, "I'm here for 2 hours. I don't care what the hell that guy does. I'm here for 2 hours." And this was Lyle Alzado toward the end of Lyle Alzado. It was just crazy. It was insane.
So you brought up Al Davis, and I have to return to that because I never had the privilege of being in a room with Al Davis. And I would think that the majority of those who are going to be listening and watching to this have not had that opportunity as well. So set the scene for us. What are we experiencing in that meeting? What is it like? Where are you? I would love for you to sort of paint the picture, if you will.
It was an incredible meeting. I'm at either a grade school or a middle school in El Segundo, because that was their headquarters when they were in LA.
That's right.
And so I went down there because we were renegotiating a new 2-year contract. And there was all this speculation that they were going to leave LA. So this would have been maybe 87, 88. I don't remember the exact year. So there was one line in the contract that said, "This contract is null and void if you move outside of a 30-mile radius of Los Angeles." Because the talk at the time was he was fighting with the Coliseum. The talk was they were going to move to Anaheim. So I thought, you know what, Anaheim, the Anaheim Raiders, the LA Raiders, the fan base is still here, LA, Orange County, no problem. So that one line in the contract, we sat down, he sat across from us, he had his attorney with him, a young woman who later became one of my best friends, Amy Trask. Who ended up as his right hand, and running CEO of the Raiders for COO for the Raiders for many years. And the meeting went literally about an hour. Then they asked us to step outside, and about another hour, we're sitting in these little chairs outside. I mean, literally, it's a middle school. It's been converted into the Raiders offices. And Amy comes back out and goes, There's just no way Al can sign that. And I said, but Amy, I'm going to get fired if you guys leave. She goes, we're not going to leave LA. Don't worry about it. Well, 6 months later, they moved to Oakland. And she goes, Bob, it's California. It's the same thing.
Oh,
But I mean, we had a great relationship for many years after that. It was just, but that was a once in a lifetime opportunity because it was Al Davis. I mean, the white jacket with the Raiders, the white pants, I was sitting across a table from Al Davis, who, next to Jerry Jones and maybe, Bob I can't think of another owner, that had the flamboyant. I mean, it would be just like that. And tough as nails, wouldn't budge an inch,
well, what is your negotiating style? Because obviously your track record speaks for itself. People enjoy what you do. They look at you as someone who has so much credibility. So how are you able to bridge relationships, friendships in the business, but also maintain such a high level of business acumen and get deals done as well?
Well, I mean, I think the whole thing comes down to you've got to be able to transfer your passion of whatever you're trying to do, to try and make it so they understand you're becoming a partner. You're not just the radio partner and the advertising partner, the dollars and cents guy. You're a partner. You're a partner that's going to try and help them in every way you possibly can. You can use every asset at your command, or you can avail yourself to them as another member of their team to try and help them with a problem, because they might have a problem, And again, running radio stations for many, many years, we had a pretty broad reach of our audience. So the fact is, if we could help them in any way with community stuff or getting some of the players off-site deals, marketing in the early 80s, I remember there wasn't a lot of product, marketing for players. We tried to help some of the Raiders, like Howie Long and people like that. We would get them, tied together with some of our advertisers, to try and do that. So those things, it wasn't an Adidas shoe contract, but, it gave them also marketplace, because, and obviously later in life, in the 90s and early 2000s, that community side became a big part of what these teams were trying to do. So, and I think it's just really conveying the passion and that you're a partner, not just a dollar and cents partner, but a real partner.
Yeah, showing a level of caring that it's
Right.
not just a transaction, like you said, and there's
Right.
so much more to the
Yeah.
relationship. It's more well-rounded. What would you say, and we're talking with Bob Moore, president at Sports Media USA, I'm Bryan Fenley with Fox Sports Radio, is your greatest asset?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the fact that A, I'm genuine, B, I think I'm likable, but C, that I'm passionate about what I do. That's, I think, the most important thing, because I think that comes across very quickly. When you sit down with somebody and you can show their passion. I heard a great story, unnamed general manager of a baseball team that was interviewing for a job with the owner of a baseball team. And it was an 8.5 hour interview.
Oh my gosh.
And I said, I'd crack. There would be no way I would make it through an 8.5 hour interview. But I think the story, to me, the outline of the story is that's to see if the person's real. And if they're really as passionate and as talented as they present themselves. And I've always felt that if you first impressions do matter in a negotiation or in a meeting. And if you come across as yourself, being honest or being real, and you come across as being passionate, and you come across as caring and listening, they always say, the greatest negotiators are the best listeners, because you hear what this team's trying to do. And I don't think a lot of times, maybe it's changed in today's world, but a lot of times it wasn't strictly dollars and cents. I know it's gotten much shorter in that, because again, there's so many different outlets that are throwing money at these teams to get the rights. And I think that's spoiled a lot of people on what the passion side of it is, and what the straight dollar and cents money side. And then again, I can't blame them. You pay $2 billion for a team, you're looking to recoup that money as quickly as you possibly can.
You brought up the 8-hour plus interview, and let's say you do it for an hour. You can play that facade for some amount of time, but yeah, like you said, after 8 hours, that's going to wear down, and you're just going to be you. And by then, somebody is really going to get an idea of who you are, because you can play this part, put on this face. But if it's that long, I don't think anybody can expend the energy to keep that going. And I want to leave you with this. My final question for you, Bob Moore with Sports Media USA. I'm Bryan Fenley with Fox Sports Radio. What do you do at Sports Media USA that is better than any of your competitors?
Well, it's a collective effort. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. It's a collective effort. And it starts with Larry Kahn, the founder and the COO of the company. We only do things we're passionate about. If we're not passionate about them, we don't do them. It's not about making money. I mean, we want to make money, but if there's a passion play and there's a chance that we'll break even or maybe lose a little money, but that's something that we truly believe in, we'll do it. That separates us, I think, from every other company. And the fact that there's no games that are played there. And by the way, it's Sports USA Media, but that's okay.
I say Sports Media USA.
It's close enough, but it's
funny,
because,
Bob. I have it on. I have it written both ways. I have Sports USA Media, and then I have Sports Media. So my apologies.
That's okay. But here's the most important thing. It's really passionate. That's really it. I mean, it's honesty and passionate. And when we're negotiating for something, we tell them right up front, we don't play games. I mean, this is what we offer. This is what we bring to the table. And I think that cuts a lot of the junk out of the way.
Fascinating. And I'm looking forward to seeing all the content that you put out here with the NFL season nearly upon us. Bob Moore, president at Sports USA Media. And again, Sports USA Media, appreciate you for all you are doing. And thank you so much for the conversation, and really, really thankful for your time.
No problem. Thank you. Thank you, Bryan. Appreciate it.